This game has made quite the wave as of late, a game that's ambitious and unique, and it just finished out its 2-week closed beta, which gave a lot of impressions and thoughts to unpack. Let's talk about the finals. The Finals is a competitive FPS developed by Embark Studios, which features an objective-based PvP experience centered around an impressive environmental destruction system. Lore-wise, the game takes place in a virtual reality world, with a game show-like structure where contestants compete for fame and the fans' approval to make themselves something out of nothing. The games are made to encourage controlled chaos through the realistic environments and the unique cash-out game mode, which I'll explain later in the video. It's a game that wants the player to get creative, to either find a way around what stands in their way, or completely destroy it. It's exciting to watch and experience, and prefaces the game in a promising light. But does it play out well, or is it just trailer magic? Let me state that what I'm going to say in this video comes from the perspective of a casual player, which is an important factor that often gets glossed over. I didn't put anywhere near even 100 hours into this game. I didn't even finish the battle pass. But that means my experience in game time isn't that unlike the majority of any other player out there. That being said, what's the casual player's verdict? It's good. It's just good. Am I surprised? Was I expecting better? Not at all. It was a beta. It's not meant to be perfect, except for the base fundamentals of the game, which all performed to what I would say is a reasonable standard. Gunplay felt pretty good, movement was relatively stable, the ever-important objectives were flawless, so there was no risk of losing because of some sort of bug where, say, the cash box flew off the map and didn't respawn. And that's all that needs to be good. Destruction was no different from what was presented in the trailers, and it was beautiful and worked in every way you could expect, from a potted plant shattering, an entire bridge collapsing into the abyss below, or even shooting enough bullets to destroy a tree's limbs, which, yeah, who the hell is gonna go around doing that? But it's amazing that it works. That's not to say the beta was without its flaws, and it certainly wasn't. At times, movement could be slippery, as if walking on ice, although it may have just been a ping issue and it didn't affect me very much after I got used to it. Gunplay could be a tad difficult on the rare occasion because automatic weapons, aside from the Heavy's M60, have a ton of visual bounce when ADS'd, but for the most part, it was a non-issue unless you used the revolver, which has a different problem, in that it produced a lot of smoke with each shot that, when playing on lower graphics settings, was super obstructive and made it really hard to aim continuous shots. Sometimes disconnects would happen at any given moment, but that wasn't so much a bother unless you played the tournament mode, which, if your teammate disconnected between matches, they weren't getting replaced. And in this game, having a full team is crucial. Some things did get a little unbalanced at times, like the Light's LH1 rifle, which in a patch that went live a few days before the close, that buffed almost every single weapon in the game, was able to 3-tap other lights to the body with a high fire rate. Sometimes it was personally easy to say that the RPG was too strong just because it would consistently one-shot me if I was playing a light. But in hindsight, having so little health is the drawback you face when playing a light. Speaking of these light, mediums, and heavies, those are the finals equivalent to a class system. Each has different sizes, speeds, health amounts, and available equipment. Planning on zipping around the map and skirmishing with enemies? Play a light build with SMGs, quick melee weapons, and invisibility cloaks. Want to maintain good offensive pressure while being able to defend and support your team? Play medium build with auto and semi-auto rifles, turrets, and healing beams. Where you eat a ton of hits, deal sustained or high burst damage, and level buildings with ease. There's heavy build with an LMG, explosives, and hulking melee weapons. There's a variety of options to choose from between signature abilities, weapons, utility gadgets, and grenades. There's enough variety to have an entirely unique build from everyone else in a lobby, but not so much that it's overbearing. Simply put, it's the Goldilocks just right amount of variety. Was there a definitive meta though? Yes and no. On paper, no gun was better than the other, but some were just more commonly used. So this is all good things, right? Sure, there's a little bit of hiccups, but the fundamentals are down and the game is relatively well balanced. What about the game mode? For the beta, there was only the cash out game mode, where 4 teams of 3 compete to open vaults to get the cash box inside of it. Once in possession of a cash box, it had to be brought to a cash out station. Teams would be required to defend the vault while opening it, and cash out stations while depositing the cash boxes. Depositing itself takes 2 minutes out of the total 8 minutes in a match, meaning you don't really have much time to waste. Especially so when dying has a 30-second delay before you can respawn, and getting team wiped takes 25 seconds, which also resets already dead players' timers back to the 25 seconds, along with a 30% loss in cash for the dead team. In other words, dying is super punishing, but you don't really have the available time to play overly safe. That means being coordinated with your team is incredibly important. But if you're solo queuing, it's a little difficult, especially with the very rudimentary ping system. Chances at winning could also be made or broken in an instant. Getting team wiped at the very end of a match could drop your team's cash enough to lose, or a team stealing your cash out or completing theirs at the very last second can be crushing. The game is also rather demanding in terms of processing power. I have a roughly lower and middle end build, but could only scrounge out about 50 FPS at the lowest graphics once the action started. And having good enough graphics to be able to actually see during fights is imperative, but not something that players like me can afford without blowing up our PCs. So, what are my final thoughts from a casual player's perspective? Largely, it's worth giving it a try, which is easy because the game will be free to play. It's fun to just load in, run around and blow things up regardless of whether or not you win or lose. If you're looking to get competitive though, you might have a harder time to find enjoyment. This game does have a learning curve to the way matches are played out, and the strategies that are employed, and everyone that played the alpha and beta are going to be way ahead of the game. Gameplay is fun and enjoyable. The game's show style commentating is great and adds a fun twist to the normal style that we're all used to from other games. Weapons are mostly balanced pretty well, emphasis on mostly, and there's enough content to be satisfactory but not too much that you can get lost amidst the menu. This kind of game is ambitious and aims to make its place known in the FPS market, and it certainly will. On that note, I've seen it compared to a lot of things, like COD, Apex Legends, Battlefield, but really, it's not one thing or another. It's this chimera of a game, and what it feels like is entirely respective of your own experience. To me, the destruction is straight from Battlefield. The gunplay feels more Call of Duty, and the movement is everything that Hyperscape should have been. But when it all comes together, the finals becomes a unique experience that you can't quite find anywhere else right now. It all makes for a very satisfactory playing experience for a casual like me. To just get on and play for a few hours was absolutely doable, and the destruction system could be so surprising and bizarre at times that it would straight up vaporize any feelings of boredom or frustration that I may have been feeling. As a casual player, you should get the game, if only to just try it out. Quick play is pretty beginner friendly with how fast matches are, and if you're not having a good experience, you'll be out of there in no time. Embark just needs to be careful with new content that they add, but so far, they've had no problem when it comes to being transparent with the community. All it needs is a few tweaks here and there, a look at specific balancing, bug fixes, some movement related issues, optimization for the lower end PCs. The finals will be good to go. No official release date has been announced, but keep an eye out and feel free to get in there and experience this game. And who knows, maybe you'll even make it to the finals.